So I'm addressing, Peter can be two people here. I'm doing a joint brief to both the Honourable Verity Firth, who's the New South Wales Minister for Climate Change and the Environment, and also to the Honourable Ian McDonald, who's the Minister for Energy in New South Wales. And the topic I'm talking about is the introduction of legislation for the establishment of a solar feed-in tariff in New South Wales. So,
hi Alex.
Good morning, Ministers. I'm here today to talk about the introduction of legislation for the establishment of a solar feed-in tariff in New South Wales. With the ongoing consumption of carbon-based fuels, particularly for electricity generation, this has substantially amplified the impact of the greenhouse effect. Consequently, there's a pressing need to explore the ability of our energy production to be derived from renewable sources such as solar energy. Feed-in tariffs could offer a means to increase the adoption of solar power generation by domestic households through a revenue-neutral means by establishing an obligation for electricity providers to purchase renewable energy at a set price. The use of feed-in tariffs is not a new scheme. In fact, it has been employed successfully in many countries, such as Germany, whereas the scheme has operated for close to 18 years and provided up to 7% of their electricity generation through solar power. Some key points that we need to look at is, firstly, individually owned solar power generation units have the potential to serve as a substantial source of New South Wales energy-based load consumption. What a feed-in tariff would require is that energy utilities would have to purchase renewable energy from private individuals with solar power generation units at a rate higher than the market price. Consequently, the government can set the price paid for renewable energy, and it can vary it to suit either the adoption of solar power generation units or the cost that is imposed on the consumers. A feed-in tariff would not require substantial government subsidy. Rather, the cost would be passed on to the consumer through the electricity utilities, and this would mean that the scheme would operate independently of government spending, reducing government expenditure and the impact on inflation. Some key considerations that we need to look at is, firstly, the length of the scheme. The scheme needs to operate for a significant period of time in order to allow people who install solar power generation units to not only cover the costs and installation of their unit, but also to potentially make a profit from their generation of solar power. The other consideration is the cost of the tariff. This needs to be considered carefully because it may impact on consumers of energy detrimentally, particularly low-income consumers who might be affected by the higher costs of electricity consumption. We recommend that the government adopts a 15 to 20 year solar feed-in tariff, and it looks at a minimal cost similar to the scheme in South Australia at 44 cents per kilowatt hour of solar energy. This would hopefully allow users to not only install and pay for the purchase of their systems, but also at the same time reduce the impact on other consumers of energy. Consequently, we think that the New South Wales Government should allow for the implementation of legislation to enact a feed-in tariff scheme for New South Wales.
Thanks, Alex. And maybe just some similar quick comments. I think same sort of features that that made Mega's presentation strong. Again, in terms of eye contact, in terms of speaking clearly, outlining very clearly what the problem is at the outset, outlining the nature of the solution that's going to be proposed, and I think quite importantly for the sort of brief that was being given, pointed out very early on that it's revenue neutral, so the ministers can relax and not worry about, having to find the extra money. So I think getting those issues out up front was very sensible of Alex. I think the other thing that Alex did that was good in the context of the sort of brief he was presenting is that he made reference to schemes in Germany and South Australia that already exist and already work. And so again, you appreciate that gives the ministers a level of comfort that the sort of things being proposed is likely to be viable rather than being something that's going to land them in political strife. So they were features of Alex's presentation that I thought were, and his brief that I thought were strong. Thanks, Alex.